Hello. Welcome to episode 23 of the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast. I'm Christine.
And I'm Sam.
And I hope you've all had a good week since we last talked to you. We are in our third week of our cookbook challenge. Is it third or fourth?
Fourth.
We are in our fourth week of our vegan cookbook challenge.
We asked that same question last week.
I know. I don't know why I can't keep track.
We really do need to keep track.
I should just write it down.
That might help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're in our fourth week of our vegan cookbook challenge. And this week, the recipe was a ramen recipe.
Oh my God. I love ramen. And it can be really challenging to find a good vegan ramen out in the world. And so anyway, I'd been craving ramen for a couple of weeks. And so last Monday on Valentine's Day, Christine very sweetly created for me this beautiful tempeh ramen from...
Oh, well, this is from an e-cookbook that I got from Eamon and Beck and Fraser Fitzgerald. It's an awesome cookbook. Beautiful. The photos are beautiful. The recipes are beautiful. They're concise, and I'm looking forward to making more out of this cookbook. Okay, so the recipe is called Miso Ramen with tempeh pork. So this is you make a really deep miso broth. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. You got to get this cookbook. I'm telling you, man. Get it. It's only like $19 or something.
And where can we get it?
Oh, you can get it online at frasercooks.org. Or you can also get it, I believe, at Eamon and Beck. I don't know if they are eamonbeck.com.
I'm not sure.
eamonandbeck.com. But yes, it's a miso ramen with tempeh pork. And you make, like I was saying, you make this really deep miso broth that is so good.
So good.
And they use a method that I've never done before. But to be honest with you, if I made a miso broth, I just used like regular vegetable broth and then just added miso paste into it. But in this one, you do something different. There's a twist that gives it this really rich, smoky flavor.
You gotta love a twist.
Yeah. So then you take a block of tempeh and you crumble it by hand. And so it like kind of simulates a pork. You cook the tempeh and it kind of simulates a kind of like a sauteed pork kind of situation. And then in this recipe, they use broccoli as a veg, but you could really put any.
How else would you use broccoli? As a fruit?
What I mean is, as a veg, they use broccoli.
They use the broccoli as cheese.
Oh, so much semantics.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. For a vegetable in this miso, or
yes.
in this ramen, they use broccoli. Mm-hmm. But you really could use this recipe is so expandable.
Oh, really versatile.
Yeah.
You could do just about anything.
Yeah, this is a really great recipe to just like have under your belt.
Yep.
If you don't know what to cook at night.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was stunning. Being the eater of the ramen, I was not the cook of the ramen. I was the eater of the ramen, and very, very happily the eater of the ramen.
Yeah.
This was an outstanding recipe. The first thing I think that I said when I was eating it was, oh my God, this is Plant-A-Queen quality.
Yeah, you said it was restaurant quality, which is, I was like, well, thank you.
Yes.
But really, I chalk it up to the recipe.
And,
I just followed the recipe to
well,
a T.
of course, but that's both kudos to the recipe creators and kudos to you for preparing the recipe as instructed. So
thank you. Yeah, and they say they say on the page that this recipe is on, it says when you YouTube ramen recipes, they all sound really intense and hard. Listen, we've got you. We can do this together. Buy a container of miso and you're halfway there.
There you go.
So a lot of the recipes in this e-cookbook are simple versions of what can be complicated foods. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Because it's called Everyday Eats. So, mm-hmm. They wanted to make recipes that were really super accessible. Yeah. And I think they were successful in doing that.
No, well, this was an absolutely beautiful dish. Like, I didn't want it to be over when my bowl was empty. I really did not want it to be over. Fortunately, there were some leftovers that I got to have a couple of days later, but
There was, yeah.
Yeah. But I have to say one thing, it's interesting to me that they categorize the tempeh as tempeh pork, because I didn't really get a pork texture or a pork flavor profile.
I can see texturally how it could be categorized
It
that
doesn't
way.
really matter at all, because it's just incredibly tasty, whatever the tempeh is supposed to be.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to make their recipes a little more accessible and understandable to non-vegans.
Maybe.
So,
well, I'm just saying it didn't have so for example, I'm actually not a huge fan of the flavor of pork.
Right.
And so, it didn't have that flavor profile. What it really did have was this deep, rich umami, miso, green onion, ginger flavor profile, which was just so wonderful. It was nourishing and relaxing at the same time. Like, the soup put me in a better mood.
Yeah.
Literally put me in a better mood. I could feel like my stress just going away, melting away with the ramen.
Yes.
And but I could also feel that it was very, very good for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That it was very nutritious and very nourishing.
Yeah. So it's a simple recipe, but the flavors are really complex. It doesn't come off as a simple recipe. It comes off as a recipe that you spent hours making. And well, it took me a couple hours.
I was going to say, didn't you take a couple of hours to make it?
It always takes me longer when I'm cooking from a recipe. But now that I know this recipe, I could whip it up in no time.
Oh, well, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So it's Everyday Eats, 50 simple and satisfying plant-based recipes. And that's from Eamon and Beck and Eamon's brother, Fraser Fitzgerald. They collaborated on this. It's a really great cookbook. 50 recipes. And there's really beautiful pictures and stuff in it. They took a lot of time with this, and you can tell, I mean, there's a lot of hard work. Yeah. And it shows.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen the ebook because Christine has it on her computer and I haven't looked at it yet. But
keeping it to myself.
She's keeping it to herself, which is absolutely fine because she's the primary chef of the house.
That's not true. You just haven't looked at it.
I just haven't looked at it. But anyway, even though I haven't seen it, serious props for recipe quality. I know we've only done one out of the 50, but absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm really excited to try more recipes out of this one.
Yep,
so
bring it on.
So you'll be hearing more about this because I like I said, I really want to dive into this cookbook.
And I really want to dive into the food that Christine makes from this cookbook.
So with that said, I want to keep this episode a little bit on the shorter side because I am currently dealing with a dental situation. I broke a tooth last week. And I was in so much pain.
She's been in a lot of pain, poor thing.
A lot of pain. I tried everything. My dentist couldn't get me in, and I had to wait a day or two. And I tried everything, like Orajel. I was using clove oil. I tried ibuprofen. I finally resorted to bourbon, which really didn't take the pain away, but made me forget about it a little bit.
There you go.
But I have since seen the dentist. I'm currently on antibiotics. They can't take they're going to take the tooth out. It's that bad. But they want me on this antibiotic before they pull it. Yep. So my mouth is kind of icky feeling. It hurts and still a little.
The more she talks, the more sore it gets.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of keep this short, but I did want to talk about a couple of things that I read in the news.
Gotta love the news.
Yeah, first thing that I wanted to talk about was an article in it's a college newspaper, The Observer, and the article is titled "Is That Vegan? My Toxic Journey with Veganism." This is an article written by funny enough, Emily Fitzgerald, no relationship. No relation to Fraser or Eamon Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
So yeah, is that vegan? My toxic journey with veganism, and this is an article about a young woman, college age. Because like I said, this is a college newspaper that went vegan and had kind of a bad experience.
Yeah.
With it, mainly because it triggered some disordered eating that she'd had in the past.
Yes.
I'm going to let Sam kind of talk on that point because she has more experience with that than I do.
For sure.
What did you think of this article?
Well, I actually thought that it was really well written. And I thought that the author did a really good job of stating very clearly that her issues with veganism were not with veganism in and of itself.
Yeah.
But that she adopted a vegan lifestyle with the wrong mindset.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. Well, she subtitles the article to kind of give you an idea what Sam's talking about. She subtitles the article with "Restricted diets can foster an unhealthy relationship with food."
Yes. And that's true of any restrictive diet.
Right.
Now, the thing is, and I do have a history of eating disorders back from my teens and 20s. And so what I find interesting, I can see how placing specific restrictions on what you can and cannot eat could trigger some of those feelings, could trigger some of those behaviors.
Sure.
Again. But interestingly, I've found that my relationship with food has actually gotten a lot better since going vegan.
Yeah, I think mine has also. Now I don't really have I don't know if I wouldn't really say that I have had a lot of experience with disordered eating.
Mm-hmm.
I've had times in my life when I was younger where I just wasn't eating healthily or eating enough. Not because of any eating disorder. I think it was more of a partying disorder.
I think you're right.
So I really can't speak to that. But I do agree that I feel like I have a better relationship with food now that we're vegan.
Right. Yeah. And so I'm very sorry to hear that this young woman had a bad experience with veganism and that it did trigger, it sounds to me almost like a perfectionist side of her personality, where she didn't feel she could make any mistakes. She had to make sure that she absolutely did not consume any animal product of any kind ever, even by mistake.
Yeah, and she seemed to kind of fixate on it, on that perfection.
Right.
And also fixate on the fact that if she ate vegan, even though she started going vegan for ethical reasons because of animals and stuff, but she got into this mindset that if she ate vegan, she would instantly be a healthier person.
Right. And we all know that that's not necessarily true. There are healthy ways to do vegan and there are not so healthy ways to do vegan. And then there's everything in between.
Yeah.
And sure, you could argue that high raw vegan is the healthiest way to go, but it's also not always practical,
right?
For a lot of people. Also, some of us just really like our cooked foods. And so we like to roast things and we like to saute things. And so obviously a whole foods diet is going to be healthier than a processed foods diet. I kind of believe in, moderation all the way around. As long as I'm getting a whole lot of raw veg, I'm a happy camper.
Yeah. We don't eat too much processed foods, but we don't kick ourselves if we do.
No, absolutely.
Because we know, what, we're human and every once in a while we want a treat. And
yeah,
we know, A, this probably isn't the healthiest choice, but B, it tastes good and we like it.
That's right.
So we're going to eat it.
And it's still not hurting any animals.
Right. Right. So yeah, I think, I think she went into it with so much stress, stressing so much over the perfection aspect of it.
Well, I think also part of the problem is just you brought up semantics earlier, but just the semantics of the word diet. First of all, veganism isn't a diet.
Right.
To quote herbivore for
Yeah,
a second, the herbivore clothing company.
Yeah, it's an ethical choice.
It's an ethical choice,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's not a diet. Yes, your ethical choice is leading you to certain dietary restrictions, but it's not about perfection. It's not about like I'm just thinking about the number of diets that are out there, or the idea that women in particular are supposed to be on a diet. Well,
Right.
well, nobody is on a diet. Everyone has a diet,
Right.
meaning the diet is the culmination of all of the food that they consume
Right.
on any given day.
Yeah, somehow the word diet turned into something else, right?
Yeah, it did. Sometime in the late 50s, early 60s, it really started turning into an industry and a thing
Right.
that people were suddenly, oh, I'm dieting.
Right.
And so I think that if you use the word diet to describe veganism, and because there are specific restrictions within veganism, yes, it can have that feel that you're denying yourself things.
Yeah.
And again, just the desire to be absolutely correct about it, to be a perfect vegan.
For some people, I guess. Yeah, she says at one point in the article, she said the weight of feeling like you need to save the world and your own health by never eating animal products again is a lot.
I think that's maybe a place where we differ as well. I am 100%, and I think you are as well, 100% aware that I can't save the world.
Right.
I have no illusions about that whatsoever.
We can't save the world. All we can do is do our best not to do harm.
That's right. And so I think that's something that perhaps gets a little bit lost, that it's not about saving the world. It's about doing as little harm as possible.
Yeah.
And those are two very different things.
Yeah. And then she goes on to say, anytime my family went out, I would have extreme anxiety about whether I would be able to find anything to eat. If I couldn't find any options, I would eat French fries or not eat at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I mean, I think every vegan probably when they're going out to dinner, you scope out the menu online, right?
Sure.
You're going to find something. There's going to be something.
Well, generally speaking, there will at least be something that you can modify slightly.
Right.
A sandwich that you take the cheese off of, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I do understand that concern. I mean, when we go out with our family, like Christine says, we do scope out menus beforehand, and we do try to make suggestions to our family saying, hey, we know we can eat at X, Y, or Z place. Right. As opposed to allowing them to pick the restaurant, and then it turns out that there's nothing for us.
Yeah. So I think this young woman's mistake was, I think she kind of rounds out what her mistake was in one of the final sentences. She says, a diet that was supposed to be absolutely amazing was making me miserable. Well, number one, it's not a diet.
Right.
If she had gone into this honestly for ethical reasons, she wouldn't be considering it a diet.
That's probably true.
And I mean, this is a really well-written article, and I do appreciate all of her viewpoints. Mm-hmm. And I do understand that she's very young.
Yes.
But it seems like she has more of an anxiety issue than a vegan issue.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. But I think her statement that restrictive diets of any kind can be triggering for those with histories of eating disorders, that's absolutely true.
It is absolutely true.
It's absolutely true.
Yep.
And so if you are someone who has a history of eating disorders, anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, body dysmorphic disorder, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the list goes on. If you have any of those issues, then it's a good idea to really take a look at where you are within your own mental health.
Yeah.
Before doing something that is in any way restrictive.
Yeah. Especially since she's a college student.
Yeah.
She might not have as much access mean, she should have access to grocery stores.
Well,
but
for sure.
maybe she doesn't have someplace to cook. Who
Exactly.
knows?
She may not.
She might have not enough access to all the great
good vegan food
that there are, just
Right.
vegetables and all that. She might not have access to be able to cook her own meals that way.
Well, college campuses in general are notorious for terrible food.
Right. I mean, most college kids are living on French fries and chicken finger subs.
And pizza.
And pizza. Yeah. Right. So she ends this one paragraph. She says, in a way, being vegan is volunteering to be a picky eater. Do you want that? No, I can't have it.
Mm-hmm. See, I've never felt that way.
No, I never felt that way.
I've never felt that way. I mean, it's so interesting. And I suppose I can understand how people would feel that way. I mean, a lot of times I will talk to someone and they say, oh, I think it's really great that you're vegan, but man, I need to eat meat. I need to eat cheese. I need milk or whatever. I could never give up ice cream, whatever it is. And that's fine. And that's their perception. That's obviously not truth.
Yeah.
It's their perception and it's valid. If that's where they are, then that's where they are. No, I think I was just talking about access to good food.
Right.
Yeah, access to good food. That if you can't access the foods that you need to be a healthy and well-rounded vegan, then of course it's going to be more complicated. Yeah, I have actually expanded the things that I will eat. Like, I feel like I've become a more adventurous eater since we've become vegan.
I think so too. I think we've definitely expanded our repertoire of things that we eat and cook.
Yeah,
since we've been vegan.
Absolutely. I mean, come on. I've eaten mushrooms in many, many forms now.
Yeah, Sam used to be
Anti-mushroom.
Anti-mushroom. I'm not faulting this woman.
Not at all.
In any way, shape, or form. I do kind of have issue with how she titled the article. It's kind of clickbaity, but she goes on to say it isn't inherently harmful, which kind of makes it you think, well, it is harmful in some way. Living vegan. It isn't harmful at all. She says it isn't inherently harmful. It just led me down a slippery slope, which is why I believe veganism isn't for everyone. I think veganism is for everyone. I think you just need to go into it with the right mindset.
Sure. Sure. And an awareness that, yes, certain things are going to be different. Am I remembering correctly, doesn't she mention vitamin deficiencies at some point?
She was diagnosed with a vitamin deficiency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's relatively common. But that's also relatively common in those who are omnivores as well.
Yeah. Who are restricting their diets in some way.
Well, and even if they're not.
Or not, yeah.
Like, for example, several years ago, I had a severe B12 and D3 deficiency. The D3 is just because I live in the Northern Hemisphere and it's February.
Right.
But the B12 was a different thing altogether.
It was an absorption issue.
It was an absorption issue, which fortunately has been figured out. But this was pre-veganism.
Right.
And I have not had that B12 deficiency since going vegan.
Yeah.
All of my blood tests have come back normal for B12. So I don't think that the vitamin deficiencies are specifically related to veganism. Yes, it's a good idea to take a multivitamin. Yes,
Right.
It's a good idea to make sure you're eating as many fruits and vegetables as possible.
Right.
Yes, it's a good idea to eat as many whole foods as possible. But in the event that you're not getting absolutely everything that you need from the food you consume, a multivitamin is a good idea. And there are plenty of really good vegan multivitamins out there.
Yeah. This young woman has not gone back to being an omnivore. She's a vegetarian now.
Good for her.
So it was basically just dairy products that was making her feel like she had no control over her diet.
Well, that's really interesting. I mean, in a lot of cases, a lot of books that I've read and a lot of conversations that I've heard, dairy is the sticking point for a lot of people.
Yeah.
They feel like they can do without meat, but no cheese, no milk, no yogurt, no ice cream, no, those kinds of things is kind of harder to fathom. And the interesting thing is like I don't miss any of those things.
I don't either.
You know, like I don't crave any of those things. But if for her, cutting out dairy was a step too far and made her diet feel restrictive, well, then veganism was not right for her in that moment, at that time.
Yes. And she very responsibly concludes her article here with a really responsible sentence. I'm sorry, I'm being redundant, but I'm really glad that she wrapped that up this way. She said, "It's an amazing option for other people, though, and I'm not trying to dissuade anyone from trying it, just urging caution. Before anyone goes vegan, they should examine their relationship with food and determine if it's a good choice."
And that's just smart.
I think so too. If you have issues with food, if you do have any kind of disordered eating, then yeah, you definitely would want to maybe talk to your therapist about, you know, you're going vegan, and, you know, put your mind in the right space before
That's right.
making that. It's a big life change, you know, so
know why you're doing it.
yeah.
Because that makes a huge, huge, huge difference.
Yeah.
I know that I've never felt that a vegan diet was restrictive in any way, and going into it for ethical reasons, it doesn't push the same buttons that food does in relationship to, you know, something like anorexia or bulimia, because that's less of a food issue and more of a control issue,
Right.
than anything else. So, to me, they're very, very different, but that doesn't mean that there can't be some commonality in some people with that kind of history.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we've said all we need to say about that article.
Yeah.
I'll put a link in the show notes to this article so you all can read it too. And we're going to move on to another thing that I found in the news that I thought was slightly entertaining and slightly disturbing all at the same time. That's
par for the course.
This is an article about a new docuseries that's coming out. It's called Bad Vegan. It's a docuseries, and it's a true crime story of a famous restaurateur's downfall. Now, this is a documentary series about this woman who owned a very popular and successful raw vegan restaurant in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
Over the course of some years after she met this guy and they got married, both of them, stole over $2 million from this restaurant and left their employees high and dry, didn't pay them for an exceedingly long time. And then they went on the run. They went on the lam. And they were only discovered when the husband ordered a Domino's pizza and used his real name.
See, this is what gets me. Okay, first off, let's start with the pizza. Was the pizza vegan?
Right. They don't say.
They don't say. And so we will never solve that part of the mystery, or at least not until the docuseries comes out. But the interesting thing here is the title. I don't understand why it's focusing on the vegan part of things.
Because it really doesn't matter that she ran a vegan restaurant.
It doesn't. She could have run a butcher shop for all we know, and
I think
those
it's just
actions would have been reprehensible.
I'm really thinking it's just they think they're hitting on a trend. They're hitting on two trends, and we talked about this, right?
Yeah, true crime and veganism.
True crime, which is huge right now, and veganism, which is trending right now for people.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only reason why it's called Bad Vegan.
Well, I just think it's funny. I mean, because really, it should just be, you know, bad choices or bad. I don't like to say bad human because
bad restaurateur.
Something like bad boss. I don't know.
Bad boss.
You know, bad life partner.
Right.
I don't know. That's
bad pizza choice.
Yeah, exactly. So I just don't think that the title just, there's a disconnect there for me.
I found this, I mean, even though this is a true story and real people were involved, and I'm sorry that, you know, her employees lost out on a ton of money, and this woman spent time in jail, and the husband also spent time in jail and is now currently on probation. And I don't want to make light of what is a real situation for some people in the world.
Oh, absolutely.
But I found it a little bit funny.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah. I just because the reason I found it funny was because that Netflix is going to air this and call it Bad Vegan.
Well, yes.
And then say it's a true crime docuseries. I'm like,
yes.
What else? What other like catchphrase can they throw?
Oh, absolutely.
In there?
No, because it's just not a group of things that you expect to find together.
Right.
True crime documentary, vegans, pizza, Domino's. You just don't expect to find all of that together. So, yeah, it's the Netflix version of clickbait.
Yeah, they also use something else in this article. It's very clickbaity. They talk about this woman. Her name is Sarma Amangalis. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And apparently she referred to, in some conversation with one of her employees, her meat suit, which the only reason they included this was because it gives everybody these visions of, like, wasn't it Lady Gaga that had a dress made out of meat or something at one point? But I think what it really boils down to is she was talking about her own body. You know how sometimes people call their body their meat suit? It's kind of like a philosophical way, metaphysical way of explaining that this is just a physical thing holding in your soul and all that other stuff.
Yes.
But they had to include that and include it in bold letters in this article. So that, people be like, what? Did she actually make a suit out of meat? I thought she was vegan.
And then again, hence the title, Bad Vegan. Bad vegan wears meat. Won't eat it, but wears it.
Yeah, but they even go on to talk about, that it's not what you think it is at all. She was talking about a metaphysical, she was speaking metaphysically about her.
Or metaphorically
about her own body being
a meat suit.
A meat suit, yes.
Yes.
It's just, I don't know. This article just kind of made me chuckle.
Well, anything that gets you to chuckle is a good thing. So.
Yeah. So look for this on Netflix.
Yeah.
If you're interested.
Do you know when it's being released?
I really don't. I'll link to this article if anybody wants to. I don't know.
Well, I imagine we'll probably be reviewing this when we see it on Netflix whenever it is released.
Yeah, I don't think there is a release date in this article. I'll link to this article in the show notes. This is from a website called Green Matters, which I don't know. Green Matters. This is supposed to be a website about climate change and stuff like that, and this just seems kind of, I don't know, fringical. This shouldn't be on their website. But hey, it got me to click on it.
It did.
Right?
So let's not judge.
No, somebody's doing their job.
That's right. That's right. It's all about getting the information out there.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think I'm going to wrap things up now because my jaw is starting to hurt a little bit.
Yeah, let's.
And sorry, we're keeping this one a little short. So I'm just going to do a little housekeeping.
Bring on the housekeeping.
Yeah. If you have any questions or comments or complaints, want any details or about anything we've spoken of, or just want to chat and say hi, email us at compassionandcucumbers@gmail.com. We are, of course, still holding our fundraiser for Mockingbird Farm Sanctuary, and they need money right now to pay for some pretty hefty hospital bills that a young rescue calf is racking up at Cornell right now.
Yep.
So if you could go to our Buy Me a Coffee, it's buymeacoffee.com/cucumbers and donate some money. If you donate $50, you will get a limited edition
Compassion and Cucumbers t-shirt
and
a free a free what? Oh, a free copy of Oh, wow. Now it's my turn not to be able to speak. A free copy of the audiobook of Confessions of an Animal Rights Terrorist, written by Karen Levinson and narrated by myself.
Yeah. So do that. Drop some bucks for the Mockingbird Farms Animal Sanctuary.
Yes.
I just need to slow down.
My
brain's getting ahead of my mouth because my mouth is a little slow right now.
Exactly. So, slow down the brain.
Hey, I wanted to remind everybody, if you, when if you listen to the podcast on a podcast platform that allows you to subscribe to our podcast, we would really love it if you did click that subscribe button, because it helps our visibility a lot. And it would just, I don't know, make me feel good. So,
and remember, she's been in pain.
Yeah.
She's been in pain. She's had a bad tooth. It's just, I mean, come on.
Been rough.
It's been a rough week.
It has been pretty rough.
Folks. Yeah. So, do what you can to make Christine feel good.
Yeah. So hit that subscribe. Leave us a review if your podcast platform, like Apple Podcasts, leave us 5 stars and leave us a review and let us know what you think. Okay, so I guess we're going to wrap it up until next week. I hope everybody has a fantastic week.
Yep.
Hope you enjoyed some of that sunshine that we got.
Oh, what a beautiful day today.
Yeah, we had sunshine in our part of the world, and it was well needed. It had been a while since the sun had shone.
All right, go for it.
We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. If you'd like to support the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/cucumbers and buy us a cup of coffee. Thanks so much for listening and for supporting us in what we're doing. We're really having a good time with it.